Matt restored this entire area. He planted about 10,000 trees. He's personally planted all sorts of small plants and big trees, and you'll see more of that as we go along. So he's typical of a lot of landowners insofar as they have a really personal relationship to the land. He's been working on this property for about 25 years. These people come through, they have no idea that people are attached to the land. It's not just a piece of property for them.
Great length to make this path. Beautiful.
So this is the chord that would begin this. Would be, if you could imagine, many voices. And so these are some of the voices of the trees. And then this is a stronger voice. This is a soloist. And Matt, you've planted a lot of these trees. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about the trees? And
Yes, we've planted over 10,000 trees here at the Nature Preserve. And our idea is to make a contiguous forest that's large enough to make a real good habitat for certain neotropical songbirds. And if you don't have a contiguous forest, if it's slashed by a pipeline cut or a road even, it's just not viable, and the songbirds aren't able to utilize it. We planted the forest actually for songbirds that most of which are migrants, so they've gone now, they're on their way to Central and South America. The ones I'm leaving seed for here though today are mostly the chickadees. These are winter residents, birds that will spend most of the season with us, including the colder months.
okay, so now I think what we're going to do is we're going to walk through the first part of the measure. And what I want you to do is walk with Eddie to show him where some of the initial trees were and talk a little bit about how those trees were chosen. So I think you can go forward.
This tree is a white ash. Its leaves are right now starting to change. It looks like they're turning yellow. Some are turning kind of a peach color. Right next to it, right behind it, are the remains of one of the oldest trees on this part of the property. Looks like it was a sugar maple. Probably was 200 plus years old. So it's interesting that this is growing so close to that giant that was once here. And I think that's about it.
So we just finished the first bit of the measure, which started back there. We finished that, and now we're going to go into the forest to finish the measure. We calculated that since each measure is a third of a mile, that's 1,760 feet, and then we calculated from that there are 10 notes to a measure, and between each note there's 60 wide paces if you're walking in wide paces. So in order to get each note, we had to pace out 60 of my paces, and then we knew that's where we had to designate a tree. And it worked out perfectly.
The bottom one's plain. All right.
That's wonderful. Oh, it's a very...
Of course, the birds are able to harmonize with themselves, which is handy ability for a musician.
Yeah. This is where you think the proposed pipeline is, and it's
Right.
about 5 to 10 miles wide. So that means that if we were going to put in measures to prevent their construction, we'd have to put in quite a few measures to connect the dots between your place here
Yeah.
and Pete's, this is the detail shot of
Right.
Pete's.
Right.
And the pipeline continues from this map down towards Kirkland and Augusta, correct?
Yeah, Augusta. That's where Norma's is.
Oh,
Over
okay.
there in Augusta.
All right, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to have enough measures of the symphony that we essentially blockade their progress. So this is where we're going to go next from your place.
You're going there now?
Yeah,
Good,
right
okay.
after we're done with you.
Okay.
And this is a map of your property, which extends this way. All of this is a preserve that you've
And-
created.
And this is the measure
Right.
that we've done.
This is the measure that we just did, and we're somewhat limited right now because it's deer season and there are crazy drunk hunters out there
Yeah,
that have shot horses,
Yes,
let alone
right.
people.
yeah.
So eventually, though, we'll have this measure completed. Matt is going to do that. We're going to do this measure and this measure, and
Now-
that should blockade things
Yeah,
on your
now
property.
this is where Grandfather Tree is,
Which we just painted.
so he is a side note.
He's a sentinel.
Yeah.
He's our opening chord, to the symphony.
But I would very much like, we'll talk about this, but
Yes.
back here at this line, there is a 400-year-old maple
Oh my gosh! Oh, that has
that
to be
we
marked.
call the God Tree.
Oh yes.
And I definitely want the God Tree
Definitely.
included
absolutely
in the symphony.
Absolutely, we have to have a few chords
Uh-huh.
on this.
Yeah.
So let's talk just a little bit for a moment about the symphony because you had some spectacular ideas yesterday. You were all excited about
Well-
Hamilton College.
Well, I'm just thinking that Hamilton College is very close and they have a wonderful music department. And I think Rob Kolb is still in charge up there. And I'd like to talk to him about maybe actually composing
It'd be so fantastic.
something, composing a symphony
It'd be fantastic.
that could be actually performed.
Yes, and Matt is going to be recording the acoustic habitat of each tree
Uh-huh.
that has been painted as
Yes.
an individual note. And he's going to get those acoustics morning and evening
Uh-huh.
over a period of seasons.
Uh-huh.
So you'll have that spectacular reservoir of acoustic information that they
Yeah.
could work into whatever they might think of.
You know, there is actually a scientific hypothesis called the music of the spheres.
Oh yes, I'm familiar with it.
And
Talk about
what
it.
what we're doing here, or what you are doing, is
What
actually
we're doing together.
bringing out the music of
the forest,
of
of
the
the
forest.
spheres,
It's and
absolutely.
it's a real thing.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah.
It is.
So I'm very excited about this.
Wonderful. Me too. I'm so excited about working with you on it. So I think we're going to let you go back to work.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your
Okay.
time and your generosity.
You're certainly welcome.
Can I take any of these maps?
Yeah. Here's an extra one.
Oh, great. Oh, this is
Yeah.
fabulous.
And
then-
well, you can take these. I can always make
oh, great.
others.
Wonderful. And I'd like to have this one also because it shows me where the pipeline goes. And I think this is the same.
Okay.
So we're
Yeah.
fine.
Oh, and do you have one of these?
I do. 'Cause-
Yeah,
And
okay.
this shows the property.
Okay.
Fantastic. We're golden.
Okay.
Thank you, Bonnie.
You're welcome. You certainly are welcome.
All right, so we just looked at the pipeline, which is about 5 to 10 miles wide. It's going through this whole region with Bonnie. And this is her place. We're now here at your place. And this is the detail. This is Nancy, and this is Pete, and this is their farm and their produce. And you guys have been here 11 years, did you say? And you're renting this part, but you've also bought a piece of land adjacent. You have that. How many acres do you have altogether?
It's 90 acres.
It's a nice piece of land, and it's all organic.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So where are we right now? We're looking at the pipeline coming straight
We're
through
over
the middle
here,
of your property.
not on this map. We're right here.
You're right here.
Yeah, back up.
And you've said, Nancy, that you could actually hear the pipeline as it exists now. This is not the great big pipeline.
Right.
This is the little pipeline. And it's like listening to your heartbeat. It's so intense.
It's like a beating that you hear kind of coming up.
It's like
Vibrating
1, 2,
through
3,
you.
and then the pause. 1, 2, 3, something like that.
Not exactly like our little melodic line that's creating our installation. So we're here, and we don't have the satellite maps. In order to really work this out, you're going to need the satellite maps to figure out the trees. But let's walk from here outside and let's find a tree that's between here and there that might be the anchoring tree to begin the 1/3 mile measure that we're going to mark out. So we're going to walk outside. The beech tree really stands out to me, but you must know this property, and I found that people that we work with on designating the trees for the measure know their trees. You know which trees really stand out to you. So if you're looking at that stand, is there a tree that stands out and says, yeah, I'm your anchor, you need to start with me?
I think I'd have to get closer.
Okay, let's get closer then. Good. Perfect. Okay. We did okay. It's a beautiful tree. My hunch is that we could start someplace around here.
Actually, keep going this way and I'll show you. This meets another trail that runs.
Okay.
It used to be an old county road. Her line goes all the way around that cornfield there, all the way over, down.
Let's mark these trees that we know are going to be beautiful. This one, I think, and
Do you want me to stick
that one over there. So I just want to say that for the camera, that this symphony is not just for us humans that come into the forest. It's to remind the forest that we haven't forgotten about them. It's for the forest. It's for the symphony that's already in the forest. We're incidental. So this might begin the diagonal. You could go in deeper, like maybe that tree. Actually, we could do this snag. Which one do you think is more important, this one or this one?
That one we know it's been there for a while. They're not going to take that wood. Whereas up here on this one here, it's called a widowmaker because of the way it's fallen. Someone might be able to harvest that one.
So what we did was we went deep into the woods where people wouldn't even see the notes. And we marked out the beginning of this measure with a series of introductory notes. So it starts off with the refrain in a high soprano. And then we come back down here and the bass goes. Actually, it's a little bit more complicated, so it goes. And then we're going to continue with the regular notation going forward. And we're just marking the rest of those trees. And then it will go. So the whole thing all together is. Sorry. And then it starts again. So we're about to find the first of that new chord.
I don't know if that'll work or not. I guess I could mark it with the chalk.
We should mark one of these trees, but then all the trees after it are going down. Well, let's mark the pear tree.
Yeah, I know. It's like you have to, right? See, this
for
is
that
how
portion.
it reads. AFA, DF, high B, base E, base C, base EF, Grace.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it? No, base EE, Grace. Base C, base F, Grace F, branch, base F.
Yeah, I think. And then this one, which is another F.
This was Norma and Freddie's farm, and they had been married for 40 some years, and when he passed, he wanted to be buried underneath this tree. So they had him cremated and had him buried here, and this is why it's so important that we preserve this area.
What's the threat?
The threat is the Dominion Newmarket pipeline coming through. It's a threat to everyone's property, because as they come through, they destroy not only the natural environment, but they create a dangerous environment for the future of our children to ever have a safe environment, ever.
Is the pipeline going to go through this land?
Yes, it is.
Have they received a
Yes,
notice?
yes.
Just tell us about the notice.
Norma had received a FERC notice from the Federal Environmental Registry Commission about that they would be putting the Dominion Newmarket pipeline with compressor on this property. They have not given her the direct pipeline route through her property. They just said the notice that they would be coming.
So there's an artist in Canada, Peter von Tiesenhausen, and when the gas companies tried to come through his ranch, he said, "Excuse me, but it's copyrighted. Every last corner you can't come through." So they started to take him to court, and he fought them initially, but at some point they backed down because they were getting such bad press over it. His family was sick, he was a known artist, blah, blah, blah. So they backed out. Then these activists put out a call and said, "Hey, can some artist help us apply this to the pipeline situation here?" And I responded, and I created what's called Blue Trees. And Blue Trees is a series of 1/3 mile installations that are measures in a symphony if you could visualize the score from aerially.
Okay.
So the distribution of the trees actually creates a melody over 1/3 of a mile. And that melody is also the diagrammatic map for which trees are going to be painted. And they're painted with a sine wave. And the sine wave is made out of ultramarine blue, which is non-toxic and translucent, and buttermilk, which grows moss. And the basic melody goes like this. And forgive me, I'm a bit tired. So that's the map. But on your property, we did something very special. So we started in the deep woods. And then we came down here, and then we went back up, and then we went across. So this is actually the first movement of a 5-movement symphony. We've already done the overture. We did it in Peekskill. We copyrighted it, and we sent a cease and desist demand to Algonquin Pipeline and Spectra. So now we're going to do a second copyright. By now we have about 15 sites internationally where people are painting these measures, and they're chiming in with a Greek chorus where people do individual trees. So Tasha's going to paint her tree. She'll be part of the Greek chorus. So for you, we did in the deep woods. We started very high. Then we came down into the deep woods. We went and then in the deep woods we went and then we came across diagonally and made a chord. Your pear tree and a branch, and then if we had done this we would have done an octave stretch, but since we're not, it goes and then there are 2 more trees. And that's it.
How
unique. I would have never guessed such a thing. I'm really sorry I couldn't be here, but I'd already paid for
You're
this
here.
trip months ago.
You're
And
here now.
no, but I meant to come and
Part of
help.
it.
I didn't.
You can
There's
still
still
help.
a little
Believe me.
I'm here and ready to go.
Go for it.
I'm ready to go.